CARICOM calls for an end to the war in Ukraine. The private sector lauds CARICOM's effort to reduce the importation of food. And Dean of the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps calls for comprehensive actions to address the root causes of crime and violence.
We refuse to let fear dictate our lives and limit our potential. It is time for us to unite with unwavering determination and address crime and violence as the public health issue that it is.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the CARICOM NewsTime. With the details, I am Tusan Keen English Francis. CARICOM heads of government remain deeply concerned about the impact of the ongoing invasion of Ukraine by the Russian Federation, a statement from the CARICOM Secretariat says. CARICOM heads of government registered their deep concern about the severe impact of the war on energy, nuclear security, and global food security. Part of the statement issued on May 2nd reads, "The region urges a return to mature diplomacy and calls on all relevant bodies to intensify engagement to propel an urgent and enduring resolution to the conflict and to build peace. We call for full adherence to the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter." The private sector has lauded CARICOM's effort to reduce the importation of food. Michelle Nurse tells us more.
Private sector representatives at a lunchtime discussion praised the region's 25 by 2025 initiative as a timely one and stressed the need for self-reliance and self-sufficiency in food, given the impacts of climate change, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the war in Ukraine. The initiative aims to reduce the community's US $5 billion food import bill by 25% by 2025. President of Guyana, His Excellency Mohamed Irfan Ali, is piloting the initiative.
Definitely something that I would encourage everyone to get involved in, because we require a cohort of efforts from the government, from the private sector, even the civil society, and even an individual in the region, because it would help us reduce that vulnerability from external factors such as climate change, economic shocks, and international trade policies. So I think it's a prime time, as he mentioned, to stimulate economic growth in the region and job creation in the agriculture sector, to increase the domestic production and reduce the amount of foreign exchange spent on these importing food.
The online discussion on the 21st of April provided insight into the role of the private sector in transforming the region's agriculture sector.
25 by 25 initiative is one that's strongly supported by the Republic Bank Group. It's one that works to the benefit of CARICOM. From our perspective, we have committed $100 million to the financing of sustainable agricultural projects that go directly towards the 25 by 25 initiative.
The panelists underlined the need for self-reliance.
Agriculture is not for the faint of heart, because there are a lot of variables involved, but I think that we must understand that one of the things that will create which long-term benefits to the community, the CARICOM community, is to become self-reliant in this regard. Self-sufficient and self-reliant, because we would have understood recently, because even after COVID, we ended up with the Ukraine war, which when we thought we were coming out of COVID, we actually got a surge in the cost of the logistics to get products from one region to the next. And then even the supply of inputs became a difficult thing to get to. So that makes it even more critical for us as a region to work together to become self-reliant in as much of the things as we can.
Entrepreneur Ralph Burkhoff praised the vision of the strategy and pointed out that across the region, people are finally listening and understanding the need to grow more food locally.
Well before COVID, we were so over-dependent on food imports as a whole in the region. It's really only because of the initiatives of CARICOM and the leaders who we have today that have accelerated the attention into this sector now and certainly the COVID and all of the other global factors, have helped put this focus on food security. People are listening now to what we've been saying for years, that, we need to grow more food locally and be more dependent.
Ambassador David Prendergast, CARICOM Director of Sectoral Programs, moderated the one-hour session. The next discussion will be held in July. For more on the discussion, please head over to our YouTube channel or our news site, today.caricom.org.
The CARICOM Secretariat is facilitating deeper engagement with member states, regional institutions, international development partners, civil society, and young people. This goal is outlined in the CARICOM Secretariat's 2030 Strategic Plan. Deputy Secretary General of the CARICOM Secretariat, Dr. Armstrong Alexis, describes the plan as a development trajectory that has as its primary focus the growth of the people of the region. He also talked about the work being done to determine how best to engage with civil society.
Engagement with the citizens of the region, and that is why, again, we say that we want a region where, citizens feel a sense of value, where there is sustainability and there is prosperity for all. In order for us to achieve that, we have to engage a wider spectrum beyond just the government of the day in the member states. And the Charter of Civil Society was in fact adopted by the heads of government to reflect that, to reflect a wider embrace of ideas, to allow ideas to contend beyond just that of what is emerging from the governments of the Caribbean community. Quite a bit of work has actually started. In the Office of the Secretary General, we now have a colleague who is going through the charter to determine how best to engage civil society.
Over the past 2 weeks, we have featured highlights of the regional symposium on violence as a public health issue, held recently in Trinidad and Tobago. Today, we feature the voice of the youth, ably represented by the Dean of the CARICOM Youth Ambassador Corps, Attorney at Law Ms. Renee Atwell. She calls on regional leaders to comprehensively address poverty, inequality, limited access to education, and economic opportunities to break the cycle of crime and violence in the region.
Poverty, inequality, limited access to education and economic opportunities, these are the factors that drive many young people into a life of crime. We must tackle comprehensively these issues to break the cycle of violence and create a brighter future for our region. Investing in prevention and early intervention measures that tackle these underlying issues is crucial. These programs should focus on providing access to quality education, vocational training, mentorship, and counseling, as well as promoting positive values, conflict resolution skills, and life skills.
Health professionals in the region have benefited from a capacity-building initiative organized by PANCAP. Timothy Austin tells us more.
64 Caribbean health professionals successfully completed courses in policy development and advocacy in global health and leadership and management in health through a capacity-building program facilitated by CARICOM and the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS, PANCAP. The initiative, supported by PEPFAR USAID, incorporated courses offered by the University of Washington's Global Health e-learning program. It forms part of PANCAP's knowledge management program to enhance human resources in health region-wide.
As a serving member of the project management team on the Global Fund Health Project, as the administrative officer, I would say this program benefited me tremendously. Tremendously would even be an understatement. The program was in management and leadership in public health. And firstly, it enabled us to distinguish the difference between a leader and a manager. And I think often we take that for granted. Not everyone is a everyone who's a manager is not a leader. And I think that was one of the core learning points that I came out with after completing this course.
Since the start of the program in 2021, 164 Caribbean health professionals have successfully completed courses in leadership and management in health, policy development and advocacy in global health, and HIV clinical management. The initiative aligns with PANCAP's vision to end AIDS by 2030. For CARICOM NewsTime, I'm Timothy Austin.
Thank you for watching this broadcast of the CARICOM NewsTime. For more stories, you can visit the CARICOM news site at today.caricom.org or the CARICOM website at caricom.org. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be safe and see you next time.